Welcome back to the Pain Game. Today we are reacting to Beterbiev versus Bivol 2, the epic Riyadh season card. And I've got to give credit to Riyadh season here. I think that this was one of their best cards ever. It was really well organized in terms of the fact that it was fight after fight after fight. It was like a 7-course meal. We were eating good. And Riyadh season is clearly the Champions League of boxing now, where it's the creme de la creme. In terms of a card from early on being that high level, insane. Now let's start at the main event. Beterbiev versus Bivol. I expected Beterbiev to do what he did last time, but start earlier and put the pressure on Bivol, and Bivol to not be able to live with the power again. And I was wrong. I said I wasn't going to believe Bivol's chat, and he did say he was going to make changes, but I said I just can't believe it until you show me. Well, congrats Bivol. You showed everyone, mate. What a fucking performance that was. His ex-wife must be so pissed, by the way, because she was horrific in that last fight. She's been quiet, so hopefully he silenced her with a fucking paycheck and we don't have to see him terrorized like that again. And I watched the fight this morning and I re-scored it because obviously when I'm doing a live stream, I wasn't exactly sober. And obviously we're chatting, me and the lads, you can't give it the full attention it deserves. I did that this morning and I still had Bivol winning. Don't get me wrong, it was close. I gave it 6-5 to Bivol with 1 round a draw. So it was still close, but I said in the last fight, Bivol's level as a boxer is probably higher than Beterbiev's. Like his ability level is world class, right? But so is Beterbiev's. But I think Bivol can go to another level in terms of skill. But it was the will, determination, the power of Beterbiev that equalized that and made him the winner last time. And I thought Bivol just needs to do what he did well in spells of the first fight for a much longer period. But how do you do that stamina-wise? How can you dig that deep? If you couldn't dig that deep in the first fight, how can you do it in the second fight? Well, he did. And clearly he trained harder, but they were also very clever in the corner. They were rubbing Bivol's legs down. They were making sure to get him as recovered as possible for each round so that he could deliver more and more later on into the fight. And where Bivol was getting chased around the ring last time by Beterbiev, you could see Beterbiev didn't have the legs this time that he did last time, right? He tried to invoke that early on and put the pressure on early on, but it was him who was slowing down. He struggled to keep the pressure up in the later rounds, and you got to give him, some slack. The guy's 40 years old. Like, he wouldn't have even been 100% in his prime in the last fight, let alone every fight that goes by now. It's going to get harder for him. But I thought Bivol showed that he was a bit more of a man this time. He was a bit more ready. He learned from the Beterbiev fight. He took the shots better. His chin was granite. And he also stayed in the pocket for longer periods of time, dishing out the punishment. Instead of, last time when it did get a bit nasty, he would be the first one to back down. And he didn't back down the way he did last time. And Beterbiev couldn't get the impact on his shots that he did last time because that back leg was just not moving in as quick enough to generate the force and to close the distance the way he did last time. And it was a bit sad to see, right? Because you know that at 100% maybe he could have been better, but you just know that that's never going to come back now. He's 40. And look, he still looked fucking great. I'm not saying, Bivol beat some rundown old man here. Bivol beat a great fighter that all of the light heavyweights probably lose to. I'm not trying to take anything away from Bivol, I promise you that. Bivol's performance was one of the most impressive boxing performances in the last 10 years. But Beterbiev just couldn't cut the ring off the way he did last time. He couldn't pin him down and unload the shots. Bivol was too quick and very clever in the way he moved in this fight. And every now and then, Bivol would plant his feet and get a bit more power on his shots than he did last time as well, I think. And I think that forced Beterbiev to respect Bivol more than he did last time. Last time he was just walking forward without any regard for what was coming back. This time he was forced to respect Bivol. And it sounds like there's going to be a rematch. For me, I don't know if I can see Beterbiev winning a rematch just given the way his body looked in this one. I see a bit of a decline from the last one, and I don't see Bivol at his age declining anywhere near the same amount between fights. But who am I to say don't do a trilogy fight? Because this is some of the best boxing I've ever seen. This is champagne boxing we're watching here, and we're all lucky. And if there's any young fighters who watch these videos, these are the guys. They might not be the best speakers in the world, but motherfucker, they're the best boxers in the world. These are the guys you need to be learning from into everything. How to survive when you're in tough spots, how to get yourself out of danger. There was movements Bivol was doing where, I think it was in round 9, Beterbiev came after him and the way he just ducked under, spitting out, bam, 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 bam. I was like, my God, What am I watching? It's like when you watch a Cristiano Ronaldo, a Lionel Messi. It's greatness is what we're watching. And what a CV Bivol has now, by the way. To have a win over Canelo and Beterbiev. Where the fuck is he in the pound for pound rankings? Let me know in the comments below. I've got him top 5 minimum, maybe top 3.
After the fight, I came to Beterbiev and I told him, Arthur, I respect you so much because when I was young and I came to national team, I was looking after you, how you are training. I really respect you and I want to shake your hand. But he said like, I will not shake hand now because we will have third fight. And it was in a normal way, not like arrogant, you know, it was fine. I said, okay, no problem.
I've got to admit, that was cool as fuck. And it does make me want to say a trilogy, because we've seen trilogies like Triple G Canelo. I put this above that. I think that this is a better fight, better stylistically on the eye. This is just as good as it gets. And it's a shame that it doesn't get the attention that the Fury and AJ and the, you know, maybe even Canelo fights get. But we will remember this. This will go down in history for us. On to Martin Bakole, who came in a last-minute replacement for Daniel Dubois to fight Joseph Parker on 48 hours notice. The problem with that 48 hours was a lot of that was him flying to Riyadh, and God only knows what state his body felt like it was in by the time he got there. He's a big dude. He's not flying in the nicest situation. You can tell he had to hop on a few different flights just to get there. I think it was 4 in total. I'll give him credit. He showed he had balls, and I understand a fighter looking at life-changing money just going, I gotta fucking show up here. I can't not do this for my family. I gotta secure the bag. And that is a positive to come out of this, right? And he showed balls, and he showed loyalty to Turki Al-Sheikh in a bad situation, and for that I give him credit. But I think that's where the positives end. This is the punch that took Martin Bakole out, and it lands like on the top of the head. You kind of missed it because of the angle, but it lands at the top of the skull. And I love AJ and Usyk looking like stepbrothers here. Just like loving that. And look, he was doing all right in the first round before that happened. He looked okay considering, right? He still had Daniel Dubois' gloves on. It was a fucking madness. But he was so overweight. I said before the fight, losing Dubois and bringing in Bakole is like losing a Lamborghini and bringing in a Ferrari. But in reality, it was like losing a Lamborghini and bringing in a tractor. He was just so large. And he's always big, but fuck me. He'd been eating good. And this is coming from me, man. And I think it might have been a mistake in retrospect. I understand he might look at his bank balance and think it was a mistake. Trust me, mate. On our live show that we did, and shout out to everyone who tuned in, our pro boxer, Lawrence Oswecki, said, look, you're a pro athlete.
No elite athlete should let themselves turn into a baby elephant. Like, the way he was there, like, that is disgusting. Even out of camp, you should never look like that. I've trained you recently, okay? And I've seen you in the gym, feet look way better than Bakole's. And you're just casually keeping fit. This guy is an elite athlete. No, this is no joke. I'm not, this isn't big and Brian. This is nothing about Brian.
I've been losing weight, right? I've been working hard. Don't worry about it. I've got to stay healthy.
I was going to say, not 300 pounds anymore.
Ah, baby.
Got them
cheekbones back.
Can I just say,
they're back.
Brian isn't trying to get himself in a position to fight for a world title.
Yeah.
And his movement, his feet, standing at probably 300 pounds now, is way better than Bakole's.
Fuck me.
And that's why. This is why I'm saying it's criminal. I'm not saying
Have you drunk a lot tonight, Lizzie? All right.
My point is there's no way an elite athlete at any stage should not be, fitter than what Brian's movement is. And
honestly,
that's not putting Brian down. It's a simple fact. It's not fighting.
Call me next time, Turkey. You'll get some footwork. Right? Being a pro athlete as a job requires you to stay in a certain level of shape all year round, right? You don't get to just let yourself go like you're a 45-year-old bloke who works an office job. Your job is to stay in shape. As a big man myself, and I weighed 300 pounds for a long, long time, even if you're just ticking along and doing minimal cardio, minimal weight training like what I do, nothing like what Martin Bakole should be doing, you shouldn't be able to eat enough to put weight on at that point. The only way you can do that is if you're being very lazy and very undisciplined. And they are damning qualities for anyone who has aspirations of being a world champion one day, which I believe Martin Bakole might be capable of in terms of talent. And that's where this is a bit of a shame for me. He went from being 20 stone to 22.5 stone, man. What the fuck were you eating, bro? And I wouldn't say this to his face because he's a terrifying human being. But you can't be coming in looking like Rick Ross. I'm sorry, it's just not on. And before coming into this fight, Bakole had an amazing reputation amongst the die-hard boxing fans as being the boogeyman of the division. You know, he's calling people out anytime, anywhere. And he was one of the most feared guys in boxing. And his reputation, for a price, has been severely damaged by that performance, man. Because people can't undo that. And I know real boxing fans can go, like, I can overlook that. As long as he comes back in the next fight and performs, I'm fine with it. But the reality is they're not really who pays the bills of a Martin Bakole. It's the casual fans you need to get invested in you. And that was the biggest stage of them all. Riyadh season, and it just looked terrible. Now, if he comes back and he shows how good he really is, and we see a good performance from him, and he gets himself back into a title picture, then all's well that ends well. We can kind of overlook this. But if he does have another dodgy performance off the back of this, then it's really worrying. And when you get discombobulated like that, who knows what lasting impacts there are. And I did feel a little bit like he got back up after 8 seconds of being knocked down. I fancied him, like, just give him another go. Go on, let him fucking have a go. Because he didn't look terrible before that, even though he was so big. He was landing some shots on Parker, but the corner just waved it off, and I was like, it just felt like, yeah, we've got the money now, let's fuck off home. And look, some people say, look, he did right by his fighter, do you know what I mean? Like, he would have been not able to defend himself, maybe, but Bakole doesn't have a shit chin, and that, I don't know, I believe Bakole would have been worth one more go before throwing in the towel. And my overall point about Bakole was, for him to take this on 48 hours notice gave me the impression that he'd been doing a certain level of training, that he wasn't in like terrible shape or whatever. And it's like, no, he totally was in terrible shape. He was just like, give me the fucking money, mate. And on the one hand, fair dues, but not recommended. And now, a word from our sponsors. Have you been getting a load of spam in your email recently? Or what about those calls when some random gives you a ring? Some call center where you can barely fucking hear them. It's annoying. Yeah, there's some shady guys out there called data brokers, and their job is literally to get your personal information. Your name, your email, your address, your political affiliation, the lot. And what they then do is they take it all and sell it all onto marketing agencies, which is why you're now getting bombarded with all this shit. And they've actually gone full Black Mirror now, where they're using like AI voices to try and get people, poor unsuspecting people, to hand over their cash. And this is where you hear about people getting huge loans taken out in their name without even knowing about it. This is how it happens. But luckily, this is where today's sponsor can be of help. You see, Incogni will reach out to these data brokers and ensure that your data is removed from their database. And because data brokers are always scouring the internet for your personal information, Incogni will continue policing it and making sure that your data does not appear online. All you've got to do is click the link in the description below, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. You then grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf, then you relax, and they will consistently update you as your data is removed. And the beauty of it is risk-free, because you can do a 30-day trial, and if it's not for you, they will give you a free refund. So click the link in the description below now, and you can use our code PAINGAME, that's PAINGAME, all one word, all block capitals, to get 60% off your annual plan. We got to give Joseph Parker his credit though, by the way, because he took this monster on at the last second. If you look at some of the most feared boxers in boxing in the last 10-15 years, you'd look at Zhang, Martin Bakole, Deontay Wilder, and yes, we can all revise the way we look at them now, but prior to Joseph Parker taking all these men on, they were very, very feared. And he went in there and beat them all. Not to mention, he'd signed to fight Daniel Dubois, who's another one of the most feared punchers in boxing. And he's fought AJ before. No one's got bigger balls than Joseph Parker, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And Joseph Parker actually looked massive, 267 pounds, bulked up. It may make him a more dangerous fighter. It may also make him gas out more if he gets in there with a mover like Usyk. We don't know what's going to happen, but I really hope he gets at least a title shot soon, if not a shot for a title shot, like what he was supposed to have with Daniel Dubois. I don't know if it's fair that Daniel Dubois missed this fight and then just goes straight into a rematch with Usyk. But Usyk might be like, look, I need to fight someone soon, so just give me that. One lad he could fight is Ajit Kabayel, because he just fucking destroyed Zhang. I predicted it on the stream. I said Kabayel by finish, and that was the first time that Zhang had been finished. But when you look at the way Kabayel moves, for a big, strong lad, but not as big as some of the heavyweights, he's got a bit more mobility. He throws combinations very quickly and regularly. He's very fit for that division. And for me, he's got the best body shots in the heavyweight division, right? He's finished his last 3 fights now, all by body shots. And you can see the fighters who are fighting him just struggling like fuck. They are hating every second of being there with him. And as much as Zhang tried to play, you know, his poker face off, it was obvious he did not want to be there, man. And we know Zhang doesn't work the hardest, doesn't want it as bad as some of the fighters, and Kabayel just made him quit. And you know, people have said Alexander Usyk's biggest weakness is body shot. Now, we've seen people try and do that to him before. Dubois was a debatable one. I personally still think it was a low blow, but you can have your own opinion on that. Tyson Fury landed a lot of body shots on him, but Tyson Fury's body shots are not in the same category as Kabayel's body shots. Kabayel does really well what people think Usyk's biggest weakness is. It's an interesting fight. It really fucking is. Because Kabayel is without doubt one of the best heavyweights in the world right now. And as much as I want Usyk to get out with a 0 after his win record, I don't know if he will, because he's getting older. And we've seen with Beterbiev, when you start slowing down in movement and stamina are a big part of your game, defeats happen. You know what I mean? And I think that this is a serious challenge for him. On to Shakur Stevenson, who says in this quote, "Me at my best is better than everybody." Now, his opponent pulled out. He ended up fighting Padley, who was an electrician. Obviously a very good boxer, but not even a full-time boxer, this guy, right? Very decent level fighter. And he came in, and I'd give him credit, man. He showed balls. He showed a lot. He showed talent, right? He showed that he's a fucking decent fighter. But he's still an electrician. And if you're claiming that you're the best in the world, bar none, as Shakur Stevenson does regularly, and that he's the pound-for-pound #1, yada, 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 I'd beat Tank Davis. You got to make this guy look like he's an electrician. Did he look better than him comfortably? Yeah, he looked better, but he did take some shots. He didn't get him out of there quickly, right? It went on to the 9th fucking round, for Christ's sake. This is a picture of Padley after the fight. He doesn't look like he's been touched. And I understand that Shakur Stevenson isn't the biggest puncher in the world, but still, he's compared with Floyd Mayweather. Do you think Floyd Mayweather would have let that go on that long and would have let him look like he was unmarked? I don't think so. Floyd at his age was a lot more impressive and entertaining than Shakur. Shakur's very much the money Mayweather era, not the pretty boy, right? It's not as dynamic as an exciting. And even then, this was one of the more exciting fights from Shakur Stevenson, because of Padley came and made it a scrap. But it still wasn't great to watch. The fans were booing afterwards, and when you win and they boo you, something's not right. And I know Eddie Hearn believes in this lad big time, and he'll be riding high after having his first ever undisputed world champion on Matchroom. Congrats to them. But they're going to need to set up that Tank fight in order to crown Shakur Stevenson what he claims to be, because without that fight, you'll never ever be solidified as the #1 guy in the division. And the problem you've got is, as good as Tank Davis is, the guy just doesn't have big balls, right? He's very selective, very careful, very wary of fight. And like, it's weird because I think he's phenomenal, and I think he probably beats most, if not all, of these guys, but he's just not got the brave mentality that you'd expect from a fucking fighter as good as him. On to Hamza Shiras versus Adomz. This was the big test for Shiras, right? The world title fight, and I kind of just expected him to win comfortably, because that's what I always see him do. Even though I knew this was a higher level opponent, I just thought people look good, and then they get in there with Shiras and he makes them look quite ordinary. So I kind of expected that to happen. That is not what happened. Early on, Shiras looked like he was in control. He was on the back foot, but he usually starts on the back foot. He picks you apart with the long reach, and then he hurts you a few times, and then he steps the pressure on. Didn't really do that in this fight. You know, he started well, like he started in control, but that never came. The more control never happened. And look, I've got to give credit to Adomz, because he made in-fight adjustments. He started moving his head a lot more and making it a lot harder for Hamza Shiras to land on him. And I've never seen Shiras miss that much in a fight before. And he has got these long arms, so it kind of is hard when your arms are that long to kind of time people all the time, when the head is just like a fucking pinball. It was all over the place. And when Shiras did land, Adomz took the shots well. He showed a lot of toughness, kept moving forward, and kind of just showed, I'm not going to be deterred here. You're going to have to do a lot to beat me. At that point, I'm like, well, you need to make your adjustments now, because this head movement is giving you problems, and he is landing on you. And I just felt like there wasn't a plan B from Hamza Shiras in this fight, and that's something that he's definitely going to need to work on for future fights. And where Shiras just couldn't find his range, Adomz was landing with good punch variety and multiple punch combos, and it was beautiful boxing, man. And where normally, you know, the level goes up, you're kind of expecting, all right, Shiras, you need to start throwing more now. You need to be a bit more aggressive. He wasn't throwing as many punches as he needed to. But it felt like Adomz was landing hard shots because it was making Shiras, it was keeping him honest. He became a bit more reluctant than I've ever seen him before. You don't do that without some hard shots going in. I will say, I do think Adomz should have had a point deducted because there was a lot of low blows going on, and I don't think the referee did a good enough job in keeping Adomz under control. And one of the reasons Shiras wasn't throwing as much as usual might have been the fact that he had a broken hand, allegedly. I've heard that. I don't know if that's confirmed yet, but it would make a lot of sense. It's hard to throw when you're in fucking agony. It was a draw at the end of the fight. I hope they run it back because I personally thought Adomz won that fight quite clearly. But I do think in the rematch, Shiras can massively improve. He's definitely better than what he showed on the night, and if that was an injury early on, then it would have made his life a lot harder in the fight. So I hope we'll see it again, but credit to Adomz, I thought he won the fight. As for Ortiz Madrimov, I don't really want to talk about this one. I'm just a bit bored of Madrimov now. He's just not that he can be entertaining in his earlier fights, but in the last couple, I've just felt like you're just too protective of yourself, too cautious, and this is a sport for the fans, man, and you're not giving us enough entertainment here, so I don't even want to fucking talk about it. Ortiz won. Credit to him, better boxer. Simple as that, really. Last but not least, Smith versus Buatsi. What a fucking fight this was. This was the first big fight on the card, and we were like, if this is the standard, what are we in for tonight? And it really delivered. Credit to both fighters. Buatsi, he can't sell a fight for shit. He doesn't want to talk. He's the most boring fighter, and I don't know why, because I think there is something in there. There is personality in there, but he's just closed off. He doesn't want to give anyone anything. All of his energy is for him, but I think he'd make fuck tons more money if he spoke a bit more, but I think this is who he is. But in that ring, my God, is he entertaining, because he doesn't give a fuck. And him and Smith made such a great dance partners for each other. They were beautiful in there. It was devastating punching. It was war. It was gritting your fucking teeth, bite down on the gum shield, and I'm going to keep going. Whenever you thought Buatsi's fucked here, like, he just can't keep taking these punishments. He'd just come back like a fucking zombie out of nowhere. And Buatsi did not lose this fight because he wasn't tough enough, because he wasn't man enough, because he didn't care enough. He lost this fight purely out of Smith fought the more intelligent fight and was technically better and more efficient with his punches. I think with a better game plan, Buatsi might be able to beat Smith. I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not saying he can, but it's possible in my head. But it's just his game plan wasn't good. He took far too much damage. He wasn't defensively responsible enough. He tried to just take him into deep waters, and Smith is ready for those deep waters. Smith has only been beaten by Beterbiev and Canelo, for fuck's sake. And he kind of just showed, you're a very fucking good fighter, Buatsi, but you're not quite at the level to win a world title yet. And I don't know if he ever will be. But credit to both men. They both were hurt. They both came back. That, for me, is what boxing's all about. That fight was fucking phenomenal. But next up on Riyadh Season, it's Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. The sons go at it to settle the family score after their fathers went and did battle all those years ago. We are going to be covering that very soon on the channel. We've obviously got all the usual stuff, so if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the Pain Game YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone who tuned into the live stream as well. I really appreciate you lot, and I'll catch you on the next one.